Hello, welcome to Have Your Say here at Radnor Studio 21. I'm Anne Minicozzi, founder of the Community Breakfast of the Main Line, Undoing Racism Day, and Diana Robertson is away today. Our guests today are Louella Luchie and Chuck Marshall. Louella Luchie is the president of the Radnor Township Civic Association, and Chuck Marshall is the treasurer. And today we're going to learn more about the Radnor Township Civic Association, which is very exciting to me to hear about. So we'll welcome our guests. So thank you so much for being here. I learned a little bit about the Radnor Township Civic Association and what was happening a few years ago. I guess there was an article in the Suburban and Wayne Times about how a whole bunch of people were working on renovating the Radnor Township Civic Association so that it could be in use again and working with Radnor Township. And then I learned also from Chuck the work that you've been doing. So I really appreciate, I just think it's such a great organization, and I'm excited that we can learn a little bit more about it today, and you can bring us up to date on what's happening. So first of all, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Today.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. So the first thing is to talk about the history of the Radnor Township Civic Association. When did it start? Why was it formed?
Well, it was started in 1932 as a place to help the needy and the poor. And it was held at the homes of the members at that time because of discrimination. They couldn't rent a place to organize.
Okay.
Then we gathered and did our missions for a number of years. Then in 1941, we bought the building. I think a person named Mr. Johnson was instrumental in doing that. And at the same time, at the same year, we were incorporated as a nonprofit organization. Then the building was built in 1916, and it was Mrs. Walton who built that building. Then her husband was a leather magnate, and his name was Thomas Walton. And after that, that's what we. And then that's now the site of Eastern University.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and that's in Wayne, Pennsylvania.
Where his company was, you mean?
No, that's where Eastern University is now, on that site where they lived.
Oh,
that was the family residence of the Waltons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, you know, and we've progressed through the years, and hopefully we'll continue to serve the community.
So Eastern University had some role to play in forming the Civic Association?
No,
it was the family, the Walton family, who had that property.
Yes, and sold it.
Well, the other connection with the Walton family is that the Waltons were founders of Central Baptist Church, where I attend, and they helped fund a youth group that raised money for the building of the building on 248 Highland Avenue.
Okay, so 248 Highland Avenue in Wayne, that's the building, that's the building that I'm familiar with, and that's the one that everybody is working on now.
Oh yes, they did a wonderful job. And the renovation was did mostly by volunteers. And I think Mr. Marshall knows the churches that was instrumental in getting people interested in helping us to renovate that building after we had that bursting of pipes and the water damaged the whole building.
And so, are you able to share some history of like things that would occur in the building in the past, events that would be held there?
Yes, in the past, it was we gave family affairs. Social affairs. People had their weddings there. It was a site for Afro-Americans to do most of their social affairs. We had speakers. You know, we honored individuals who were outstanding in the community. It was just a place where people came, because at that point back in the day, Afro-Americans just couldn't go any place. You know, it was segregated. Might as well face that fact.
Yeah.
And so that was a place for them to gather.
So really a community center kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the RTCA had close relationships with the two African-American churches on Highland, which is St. John's AME down at the corner of Highland and West Wayne Avenue. Mm-hmm. And then Second Baptist Church, which is right next door to the RTCA. So those churches would hold events, and sometimes they needed more space for their events, whether it was a revival or a funeral or some other service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they took great advantage of the fact that they could use the RTCA, because it was a larger place, especially St. John's
Needed space to...
Needed space.
Yeah.
And they were very supportive, you know, and encouraging us. And they gave the RTCA members who had helped them awards, because my husband and I received an award. The Gettys received an award. You know, the Gettys were very instrumental in renovating the first renovation of RTCA. It had, through the years, became run down, and so Mr. Gettys was interested in getting the Sun Oil Company and funds from the state, you know, to do the first renovation. Mm-hmm. And so they gave their own finance support, you know, and so did my husband and I. And so now Mr. Marshall and Karen Stroman did a lot in advocating for the renovations, the new renovations.
Yeah. And so what kind of things have you been working on in the building? Because I know you were working with a staff member from Radnor Township to make sure that certain things were brought up to code and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At first, after the water damage occurred, we thought that there could be, you know, simple repairs done to correct the situation, and but we soon found, after some of the walls had to be torn out, that it was really called for a renovation of the
Mm-hmm.
entire building.
Yes, they found mold. Didn't they find mold?
Yeah. There was mold that had to be removed,
Okay.
and that was removed by a professional contractor. And it showed that there was knob and tube electrical systems behind the walls, and of course that doesn't meet code. So with doing all the major renovations, it required that we get a certificate of occupancy to reopen. And so for 5 years now, we've been working on the renovations, and we got to a point where Kevin and I knew each other from a previous effort on the main line called the Interfaith Coalition for Inclusive Community.
Right, ICIC.
Right.
Right.
Mm.
And so he asked me if I would help him contact churches and places of worship in the Radnor area. And we started doing that with only a little bit of success. And then we got together, and the article that you referenced before by Linda Stein was a very nice article. And one of the other members of ICIC, John Wanenberg from Wayne United Methodist, told his pastor that he knows those two guys who were pictured, and you know, that could Wayne United Methodist help? So they joined the collaborative effort to help renovate the building, and then also Wayne Presbyterian started, and they've been a huge help. Their youth group raised money for a new ADA compliant bathroom. and they've also helped with a grant to continue forward in operations. And then Radnor St. David's got involved, and I'm not sure how the original contact worked there, but they have a person by the name of Tom Hipp who helped build their large new church, and he is lending those similar services to coordinating some of the. He's acting as almost a general manager on the rebuilding.
Okay.
So it is a collaborative, and Central Baptist Church has been helping with some small donations each year, and we hold some of the board meetings there, and it's really become an interfaith cooperative effort to rebuild.
Yeah, there's a lot of different faith communities that are involved with helping to bring it to a realization. And I think that's one of the really exciting things about the main line is how different people will work together, and it's intergenerational, interfaith, interracial, working together to make something happen.
Right.
So I just think it's a great example of that dynamic
I might
of people
wanna,
working together.
Yes. I might want to mention, what's the other church I brought in? Unitarian Church?
Mainline Unitarian.
Mainline Unitarian Church also gave small amounts of money to assist us in renovating the building.
Yeah, that's great.
Plus,
And-
they've offered to conduct a food distribution, mostly with bread products, and also a clothing distribution. They've offered to set that up at the building.
Oh, that's great. So there's going to be a lot of different things that are going to be happening. I want to go back a little bit, though, because I know you said that you went to Radnor High School, and you won't say what year you graduated, which is fine.
1955.
Okay.
We want to know.
But do you remember a time, and I'm assuming that maybe you have gone to events at the Radnor Township Civic Association when you were younger and things. Do you have a memory of a special time when you were there, a story that you would share with us of some event that you were at?
Well, when I was a teenager, there was a lot of dances we went to at the RTCA. And they called me Good Two-Shoe or whatever. And I was the one that had to look after my friends and make sure they conducted themselves right, didn't sneak out. And so that was one of the things I remember. Other things, I went to a wedding there, on barbecues, and one of the fundraisers we gave was, we called it a garden party. And I don't know if you know Alfred Pollard, but he's a jazz musician, and he would be our music for the fair. And so those are some of the things that I remember. I remember we gave a class reunion, and that was to bring some of the individuals who had graduated from Radnor together.
That's nice.
There at the RTCA. And there's other things, you know, it's favorable as far as memories go, you know, because at that time, that was really the only place that we could have, you know, have affairs and, you know, and conduct businesses and so forth. So, you know, it's...
I think there's a lot of African Americans who, when you talk to them and they've lived in the main line, they'll recall events at the RTCA that they went to.
Yeah, I'm sure I mean, that would just be so wonderful to capture some of those memories and stories of events that people went to, and especially I'm intrigued by the dances, and if it was live music or was it records?
Well, it was records most of the time during my time going there. But we were proud more than one occasion, we gave a banquet or whatever you want to call it. What's that place now where CBS is located now?
Mm-hmm. The
There's
CBS
that
in Wayne.
you know that historical house there on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Old Eagle School Road.
on Eagle School Road,
okay.
on the
Yep.
corner, but it had a new addition to it, and we gave a fundraiser there one time. We thought we were hot stuff. You know. Yeah, and that was fun because, you know, all the friends came, and we had family that could dance. And when they would get on the floor, you know, they were so good, you know, everybody stand back and have to, you know, watch them do
Yeah.
their little tricks and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was nice. Those people I wish I could see now, but some of them have, you know, died and so forth. But back in the day, we had fun, you know, although we were limited in where we could go at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the board members, Willie Ann Collins, who lives on the street, remembers her when she graduated from nursing school. The party for that graduation was held at the RTCA.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. That's true too. We do lots of individuals rent the RTC also for birthday parties and graduation parties, like Mr. Marshall has stated. You know, different affairs. You know.
I've been told that it's the last African American community center on the main line, that there used to be other venues,
Yes, it
but
used to.
that they've all disappeared.
Yes. They were the Masonic Hall in Halford and the Elks Home in Berwyn. And unfortunately, they no longer exist. They no longer exist. And we had fun at those individual places too.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the future, since we've been talking about how RTCA has been used in the past, so for the future, you foresee those same kinds of uses, that people can have catered events there and for special occasions, and maybe even dances and things like that.
Hopefully dances will be one of the things. Hopefully we'll have a health screening, because we do have a nurse on our board. Mr. Marshall has mentioned the fact that food and clothing distribution, Kevin Stroman will conduct computer classes from K to 12, and that will be during the weekdays.
Okay.
But the health screenings will be mostly on Saturdays.
Okay. And I guess we should say too, and I know we're showing a couple of photographs during the program, that there's the main floor in the building, and that's where you would have the special events where people could have a catered event, a dance or a graduation party or things like that. And then on the lower floor, that's where you would have the tutoring setup.
Yes, the tutoring setup.
And then there's the second floor as well. And I don't know how things are going with getting that ready as well.
That's still under construction or reconstruction, renovation. There's a door right now that was put in just recently to close that off, because that, when we get the certificate of occupancy, which we expect in hopefully within a month, that certificate won't apply to that upper floor. It will apply to the basement and the main floor.
Okay, because that wouldn't be a public space, so you can wait on, you know, and renovate that as you have the time to do that and the resources to do that.
Yes, that will be in the future. Yes.
In the basement, the lower floor, Kevin Stroman, who we've mentioned a couple times, Kevin has really been one of the leaders, I mean the leader in renovating the building and getting a lot of people to volunteer to do that, and heading up the Villanova Day of Service, things like that when they come in. And Kevin, in addition to his regular job, heads the car school on Upper Gulf Road in the Mount Pleasant section.
Right.
And he has created an umbrella organization called Mainline Mentoring, and that so the after-school program at RTCA would be set up under that Mainline Mentoring umbrella.
So he's handling the educational component in addition to being the sort of community advocate and getting people mobilized to help with RTCA as well.
Yeah.
And now you said that there's going to be an opening of RTCA sometime in the near future where the public can come, and how would that work, and when is that going to be?
The opening is May of this
18th.
May 18th?
Yeah,
hopefully.
we hope. We need to stress that we still need to get that certificate of occupancy.
Yes. Right.
So we're working hard right now, and there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes to do the finishing touches. Most of all the major systems on the building are completed, but there's some small touches that have to be done to get their certificate. For example, putting a fan in the bathrooms to exhaust the air from
all the code things that you have to do.
Yeah.
Even the ADA requirements that you have now that you wouldn't have had, you know, in the very beginning.
Yeah.
All those things
And
take time.
We've been getting wonderful cooperation from Radnor Township. When we first went there several years ago, knowing we would need a certificate, Ray Daly was the chief of that group, and he helped us out right from the beginning, telling us what we had to do. And also, he was well connected with lots of contractors in the area because they all, you know, go through him on other buildings that need certificates. And he helped to get a lot of volunteer work from the contractors in the area.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Also, I might mention that when we open, we also will honor all the volunteers, the churches who have assisted us in renovating the building and bringing it up to par. And we're so thankful for them because they have really helped to get us going and finishing the building, meeting all the codes that we have to. And it's been a little while, but we're finally coming to an end.
It takes time. It really does.
It does take time, and thankful Mr. Marshall, he mentioned Kevin being aggressive in trying to get everyone on board, but Mr. Marshall has helped, so has the church, not only now with this renovation, but they have helped us in the past, back when we first started, because Highland Avenue needed help in a great way.
Yeah.
It was one of the poorest areas in Wayne.
Before the RTCA building was built in 1916, there were problems with landlords in the neighborhood, and our church and the Walton family and others were involved in trying to ameliorate some of those problems. And then, not exactly sure how it led to the decision to build the building that is now RTCA, but it did, and our church helped in some of the fundraising for that.
Yeah, I think it's great because we're capturing the history here in Radnor Township with the Radnor Township Civic Association, both the painful history of the segregation that created the need for the space in the first place, and then also the community dynamic where so many people are working together to make it possible for it to open again, which is just really nice. So it captures everything that's going on, and it is on Highland Avenue there. It is on a nice piece of property. So you're talking about the garden party that happened in the past, that I could see, you know, something like that happening in the future as well.
Yeah, to me, you know, I grew up here on the main line from Bryn Mawr to Rosemont to Wayne. And it's amazing the things that I've heard back in the day where segregation was so prevalent. And then you look at what happened with individuals coming forward to help the RTCA, which is, you know, great because it's such a change.
Yep.
You know, that everybody, you know, all cultures and age groups are helping.
Yep.
You know, and that's really surprising.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think it's
Yeah.
as it comes to fruition, it's going to be a real jewel in Radnor to have the Radnor Township Civic Association open again, and for all of those reasons, the community services and the educational aspect, and then having the special events where people can come and have a party there, or
Right.
something that will really be a heart of the community, and a nice center for the community.
Yeah, and one thing Mr. Marshall hasn't mentioned is that we have a nice handicap accessibility.
A ramp.
The ramp?
The ramp.
Ramp,
on the
yeah,
side.
right.
Yeah.
And so that's great because before we didn't have that, and it was people who were handicapped or sick. You know, they had to be carried up the steps, and that was
Yeah,
really
there are
a
a
problem.
number of steps.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing to add.
Yeah, that's a good asset.
So
Yeah.
it welcomes everyone.
Exactly.
It's very good.
Exactly.
And the ramp is huge, and it's so well constructed. I think it's going to last longer than the building will.
It'll last another
think so?
100 years.
Yeah. And that entire ramp and the work that went into it was donated by Polig Builders.
Oh, that's great. So such a collaboration.
Yeah.
Well, we have to end our time now because we're coming to the end of our program, but I want to thank you both so much for being here and talking to us about the Radnor Township Civic Association. I'm looking forward to when it opens,
Yes.
which will be hopefully very, very soon. And our viewers can learn more about it as we go forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
For all the work that you do in the community.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, yes.
Welcome.
Yes.
You're welcome. So it's time to end our program for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Have Your Say. If you have any suggestions for program ideas or guests you think should be on our program, please email us at havewhysay@gmail.com because we really would like to be able to help you to have your say. Thank you.